Hi everyone, welcome to Think BRICS. Today we're going to be talking about the SCO 24th Summit, the SCO Summit, and things around that. So let's have our guest that we love to have talk about the SCO and BRICS, Rhod Mackenzie from.
Hi.
Rhod from SCOBRICSinsight. So this is Rhod's YouTube channel. So if you want to catch up on the news about SCO and BRICS and what's happening and from a Russian perspective and an international perspective, be sure to subscribe. All right. And we've got Anastasia with us too. Hi, Anastasia.
Hello, everybody. Hi. Nice to
I always
see
do
you
that to her. I surprise her. Yes.
Like
okay.
like an expected guest.
Yes, that's right. I guess the audience doesn't always expect to see you because they see you in the reportage.
But here I am.
Excellent. So let's roll the introduction.
Yep.
Birth of the multipolar world and offers a chance for peace to Ukraine. Yesterday, Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke at the meeting of heads of state of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which held its 24th summit in Kazakhstan's capital Astana these days. As the Astana Times explains, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is a Eurasian political, economic and security alliance that covers half of the world's population and nearly a third of global GDP. Its members are China, Russia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Pakistan, Iran, India, and, as of today, Belarus. The news was delivered by President Alexander Lukashenko at today's summit. Putin said, "The multipolar world order is officially here today. As the world is going through rapid and irreversible changes, the proactive position of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization in international affairs is necessary. A multipolar world is already a reality. Together with the BRICS, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is a pillar of the emerging world order. These two organizations serve as a powerful driving force." Putin then pointed out that a growing number of countries are calling for a more equitable world order and expressing determination to defend legitimate traditional rights and values. New centers of power and economic development are emerging and becoming stronger, he added. As for Ukraine, Putin said, the Istanbul agreements remain on the table and can be the basis for the continuation of negotiations. In 2024, the head of the Ukrainian delegation had initiated those agreements, so they had satisfied him. Then it was Kiev that refused to negotiate on direct instructions from London and Washington. The concepts expressed by Putin were then reiterated in the document signed by the heads of state of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. The document says tectonic movements are happening as a more equitable and multipolar world order is emerging. However, the document continues, norms of international law are being systematically violated and the use of methods of power is increasing, as are geopolitical confrontation, conflict and risks to global stability. Therefore, the member states of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization believe it is necessary to increase the organization's role in creating a new democratic, equitable, political and economic international order.
There we go.
Yeah.
So that's a nice, simple introduction. For people who are not aware of the SCO and basically what it is, they've probably heard of the Belt and Road, BRICS, obviously. But what is the SCO? Maybe Rhod, you give us a simple rundown.
Yeah, basically the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is basically like the little brother and the forerunner of the BRICS. It's basically a regional organization which runs from basically Moscow all the way down to Russia to the Caspian and then goes due east. covering Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, all the way to China. And if you throw a right at Kyrgyzstan, you get down to India and Pakistan. So effectively, it follows the old Silk Road that Marco Polo and the traders had done for many centuries prior to that.
Yeah, it says here it was preceded by the Shanghai Five mechanism. So since its inception, India and Pakistan had been added as full members, and Iran, Mongolia, Belarus now, and Afghanistan have been given the status of observers. Belarus just recently became a member. Additionally, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Turkey, and Cambodia have been granted the status of dialogue partners. So, yeah, the goals.
Yeah, basically they're all very similar, and they're all in a geographic line or slightly off of it. I think one of the rules is the fact that every member has to border at least one other member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization.
Ah, okay. That's interesting. Okay. And I wanted to highlight, so Rhod, obviously, this is Rhod's website, and this one I've made a little bit too big. There we go. And Rhod's written a few articles in today, in the last couple of days. Rhod, or was that just today? You've been writing a lot. This
it's
one
hard
about
working.
Yeah.
I'm a hard-working boy.
So you can visit, and you can see the link there. You know, visit and give Rhod some love, get educated. But yeah, you know, this particular article, you're just saying, you know, what is it? A bit of history, which is great. But obviously, there's been some recent news. So the summit, the 24th SCO summit. I think the first thing we're gonna tackle tonight was that Belarus joined. It's official. So tell us about that. You know, what's going on?
For many years, Belarus was an observer in this association, SCO, the same as before it was Iran as an observer. And years ago, if I'm not mistaken, India and Pakistan also were observers first, and then they were accepted as members. And so we see this move from observers to full membership, as it happened to Belarus as well.
Yeah. Anastasia, I think this is indicative of what might actually happen with the big brother BRICS. I mean, they've already talked, and we've discussed it in our various programs that we've done together, that BRICS, because of the large number of countries that are now looking to apply, both to BRICS, but particularly to BRICS, that they're going to bring in various levels of membership, which will be associate and observers. So I think that they're actually looking at how the SCO has managed its membership over the years and the integration, and has seen it's worked effectively, allowing countries to observe, be part of it before becoming full members.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be connected. Oh, no, go on, Anastasia.
No, I just wanted to say that as soon as we mentioned BRICS, and we started with SCO, maybe, Rhod, you may describe for our viewers the differences those two blocks have.
Well, obviously, the difference between BRICS and the SCO is geographic. I mean, the SCO is very much a Central Asia and Southeast, all the way to Southeast Asia, and the Indian subcontinent organization. As I mentioned earlier, one of the membership criteria is that you must border at least one other country, which is why countries like Nepal is an observer and it could become a member, but it does have a border, where Vietnam can join because it's got a border with China. Right? I mean, but they wouldn't be able to join otherwise. Now, BRICS, obviously, geographically, you've got Latin America represented by Brazil. you've got 3 countries in Africa, and neither of them are actually very close geographically to each other. The Middle East is slightly different, where Iran is physically actually quite close to Saudi Arabia, as is the United Arab Emirates. So that's slightly different. India has probably one of the smallest and narrowest borders with China that anybody has. I mean, if you give it, Russia has probably a border of about 4,000 kilometers. And I think it's the disputed territory between India and China in the Himalayas is something like 100 miles, 100 kilometers. So obviously the members of BRICS are global. And that was coined by the Goldman Sachs banker, and he gave them the acronym because they were emerging economies, not because they were a geographic grouping, but they were countries that were emerging. I mean, Russia was emerging under Putin from the shadow of its Soviet past and disaster under Yeltsin. China was beginning its move into global commercial domination, if you like. India again was coming through into its growth period of industrialization. So they seemed like a good grouping, and of course they were joined later by South Africa. I mean, Brazil had always been the economic powerhouse in Latin America, and it's always been outward looking towards the rest of the world, and not so much towards America. So that made it a balance between these countries, and it's actually worked very well from a geographic perspective. Although they are quite far apart, apart from China and Russia, it's worked very well on a geographic and giving a spread and a balance to the multipolar world.
So we may also say that BRICS and SCO have different approaches also. SCO is more like an economic bloc in Eurasia, that they are that they care not only about economics, but also about mutual benefits from how's it called?
Security.
Security, right? Yes,
security.
Yeah, anti-terrorism, anti-drugs control, and etc. Not only about economy. And BRICS is something. It's different from this point of view. BRICS is a block of countries that are called.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. SCO is when you talk about security, it's economic security in things like water. I mean, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, and Turkmenistan, etc. Where you're in the mountains there are things that they needed to resolve over building dams, etc. So this is where the SCO was able to step in and mediate and make sure that these regional conflicts didn't break out. I mean, for a long time, you had Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan having skirmishes on the border over water rights, etc. And being members of the SCO has helped that. It's also where the US has tried to divide and conquer with color revolutions in the region, trying to overcome the Russian influence in its backyard. As we all know, that the US seems to think that anybody who doesn't follow its doctrine 100% is ready for regime change and is a threat to its national security. Although how Kyrgyzstan, which most people couldn't point to on the map as a threat to US security, I don't know.
Probably a threat to the drug trade, I would say, more so. There was a question which I think the producer put up, but let's just put that up if you want to. Oh,
I didn't.
Yeah, there is a hole in the map showing Mongolia. Mongolia is landlocked.
I think that's now being filled, and they've got observer status. Can you correct that, Anya?
Yes, Mongolia, Anastasia. Mongolia has the status of observer at SCO. Why is Mongolia not into BRICS Plus? Honestly, I haven't heard anything that Mongolia applied to be a member of BRICS.
Also, I don't think it actually fits the criteria of a country that's actually growing sufficiently and of sufficient. I mean, it's actually one of the ideal candidates to be a member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. It's in the region. It shares borders with Russia, China, and various other members of that grouping. And it would benefit tremendously from benefits from that. Also, there's talk of the linking it via the Power of Siberia 2 pipeline, gas pipeline through Russia, Kazakhstan into Mongolia, into China. So, and already they're looking at trade routes through Mongolia from China into Russia and into Central Asia. So it's absolutely a perfect fit. And from a trade and commerce perspective, Mongolia would benefit greatly.
Yeah.
Maybe in the nearest future, we will see them as a member of SCO as well, because they are observers right now, and I guess they also have been in the meeting we are seeing right now on our video, because the observers, like for example, all other partner states were presented, the same as Mongolia. Yes, Rhod, you're right that Mongolia would benefit from being in SCO, but right now you mentioned that Power of Siberia, the pipeline that goes to China from Russia. If I'm not mistaken, this project was put on pause. They do not.
Yeah, it's still it's at a conversational stage, mainly because Russia's got obviously an excess of gas since it stopped supplying so much gas. It hasn't stopped supplying all gas. In fact, Russia still supplies more gas to Europe than the USA does, despite the various propaganda that the EU and the US puts out there. But obviously it supplies about 2/3 less than it used to. So there's a surplus of gas that Gazprom could sell. And instead of doing something sensible like investing 25 billion in 2 or 3 new petrochemical plants using the gas and as the raw material, they want to sell it just as a raw material to China. And of course China says, well, yeah, you've got the spare gas. Well, you know, I'm not really interested in paying the market price for it. So, yeah, that's another conversation for another day of economic development of Russia and how it's missing opportunities. I mean, particularly the main ingredient for fertilizer, of which there is a lack of on the world market, is natural gas. Investing, 20 billion in 4 fertilizer plants, so in a few years will boost Russia's export potential. Plus, of course, we discussed this in BRICS a few weeks ago with our Brazilian friend about the fact that a fertilizer plant's being built by the Russians and investing over $1 billion in Brazil. I mean, there's nothing to stop Russia exporting the gas into Mongolia and building a fertilizer plant in Mongolia to help there. Or in any of the regional cities of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization.
Just got to talk about it, right? That's, yeah. I just bring up this question, sorry. Yes, our producers all over. How does Turkey square this with its NATO friends? Well, I found this Turkey situation really interesting.
Well, I've done a couple of videos on it, so anybody who wants to know a fair bit about it, please do check out my channel. But I mean, Turkey, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, is Turkey's just had enough. It's been NATO's useful idiot since 1952, when it was allowed into NATO, not because they thought the Turks were really nice people, but they were the closest country that the Europeans could have in NATO. that they could place nuclear weapons and aim them at the Soviet Union. In the 1980s, it was invited to join the European Economic Community as was, that morphed into the European Union. And since then, 24 years on, it's still not joined. And it's can see that the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, where has many countries with Turkic ethnic minority or ethnic groupings, not minorities, but actual majorities. So it's got a lot more in common with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and it's certainly got a lot more in common in Asia with the members of the BRICS. So, I mean, being a member of both the BRICS and getting out of NATO would financially benefit Turkey, particularly if it wants to be the gas hub linking the gas from the Caspian, like Azerbaijan, oil from Kazakhstan, etc., and become an energy and hydrocarbons hub. It would benefit it far better to cooperate within the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the BRICS than anything that gets from the West. I mean, you only have to look at how the West and their banks have actually destroyed the Turkish economy and attacked the lira with remorseless intensity over the last few years.
Yeah, Turkey's definitely made a lot of progress. I read recently, Rhod and Anastasia, that Turkey actually stopped their military action to a degree in Syria, and they're starting to talk again. How long that will last, I don't know, but you know, this is
how many times they tried to do that.
Well,
right.
I think that Turkey is seeing that the way that the wind is blowing and the U.S. influence in the Middle East, including Syria, etc., is on the serious wane. Plus, it wants to have a better relationship with Russia and the Shanghai Cooperation and the BRICS. And interfering and being a nuisance in Syria is not doing it any good at all.
Yeah, there's another question. What can BRICS do to stop the genocide in Palestine? And I would say, and you guys can take that up too, but I would say the Oasis Plan, which I've featured here when we had an interview with Hussein Askari from BRICS Sweden. That's what we want, you know, peace through development. If people cannot get water, they cannot get food, they cannot work, they cannot provide for their families, they are in despair, and they will do many things. But obviously there's the Temple Mount plot. That's obviously something going on there. But yeah, that's just one of the questions from our audience.
Well, I would like to add something about Turkey. Turkey, since I don't know how many years, is trying to sit on two or sometimes on three chairs. They are making friendship with Russia. They are members of the NATO. They are trying to enter SCO, their partner country. That announcement that their foreign minister said that they would like to join BRICS as well. So as Rhod told, that something is in the air. So the wind is blowing, and the Turkish government is expecting something to be changed, I guess. So that's why they're trying to be there, to be here. And that fact that Erdogan asked Putin several times to visit Turkey with official visit. What does it mean, official visit? It means very important connection between countries. And Putin refused once and refused second time. So they're meeting in Astana in Kazakhstan. As for me, Erdogan used this situation to come closer to the president of the Russian Federation. And that's why there was a lot of attention from the media, from the journalists, to this meeting between Erdogan and Putin. Because the main question was asked on the press conference, will be Erdogan as a mediator between Ukraine and Russia in the conflict? And the answer was no. So the relationship between Russia and Turkey is always very complicated. Very complicated.
Sure. Anastasia, one of the things that precludes, and I think you have to notice this, precludes Turkey being a mediator, is a member of NATO. How can you have Turkey as a member of NATO being a mediator in a proxy war that the US and NATO are fighting against Russia using the Ukraine as its proxy? It just doesn't, and we've obviously noticed Erdogan has tried this. Orban is now, as we know, been in the Ukraine and talking about peace. But again, he's a member of NATO. Yeah, he's an independentist guy, but I think the chances of the mediators are more likely to be the Chinese and Brazil plan, and Xi and Lula are much more likely to be able to move forward on any peace plan, simply because they have a better understanding of how the rest of the world feels. Anybody who's a member of NATO is tainted by association.
Yeah. So we know that Turkey is selling weapons to Ukraine.
Sure.
And the same time, it's a main grain importer from Russia. And the major exporter in the world, the major exporter of flour.
Yeah.
That's confusing. Imagine the foreign minister, his portfolio. Who shall I talk to? What should I say to them?
This is
Poor
business.
guy.
Well, and we know that Viktor Orban today is in Moscow. Yes, as you told that he may act as an independent, like representative of his own nation, of his own state, and so on. But he is a member of the NATO, and he cannot. Yes, he visited Zelensky in Kiev some days ago, and now he is in Moscow unpredictably, because it was not confirmed his visit until he arrived. So it means it was something last minute, I think.
What do you think they talked about? I mean, Hungary and Ukraine. I mean that's a great to show that leadership and say, let's have peace. I'm going to propose something from our country.
Well, it was told that Orban hasn't been in Ukraine since, for 10 years. It's his first visit in 10 years.
Long time.
Well, he proposed his plan to stop that war that was refused, if I'm not mistaken. So what he will bring to Moscow?
Anastasia, I think Orban's visit was off his own bat. As we know, it wasn't very popular with Stoltenberg, etc., and he went. But at the end of the day, he's got no authority, and neither does Zelensky. I mean, let's be honest, Zelensky is a puppet. He's always been a puppet, and he's told what to do. We saw this from the Istanbul agreements, right? When the agreements were practically signed, they've all been released in the New York Times and the initials, etc., on them. And then Boris Johnson, the flying buffoon, turned up in Kiev and said, "No, we'll hold your jacket while you get your generations of young men killed, but don't worry, we'll keep you supplied with enough money to buy $1 million homes around the world. Just keep annoying Russia until we can break it down." So Orban's visit is not about peace. It's about saying to Russia, I'm trying to do what I can, but you're basically better off carrying on doing what you're doing, because Europe is intransigent, because America's told them it's intransigence, and they're going to fight to the bitter end. They want to hang on and as long as they can, hopefully, until the presidential elections in November. Right? The last thing they want is a collapse of the Ukraine during the election, because they know that Trump will use it on Biden, and it will make things, if they could get any worse for Biden, which I doubt, but obviously that's the thinking in the narrow-minded US. Is for them it's all appearances, and after the abject humiliation in Afghanistan, the observer member of the SCO, they certainly don't want another one at the hands of one of the dominant players in the SCO and the BRICS, which will just show that it's now a multipolar and not a unipolar world.
Mm.
Well, after so billions invested in Ukraine, of course they don't want it to crash before the elections.
Yeah. Well, I say you say invested. I like to think is set on fire.
Well, the time will show. But
I mean, in an article, in a thing I've done earlier today, I talked about actual investments of companies like BlackRock. Now, all of these countries have lent large amounts of money to the Ukraine over the last few years. Now, at the start of the special military operation, they suspended the repayment on the bonds and the loans that they were given. Now, they were given that suspension until August the 1st, which just happens to be in about 3 weeks' time. And from what I gather, is BlackRock and PIMCO and the various other bond holders are not happy to write off the losses. They're prepared to take a bit of a haircut, but certainly not to the extent of Alexander or Clive's haircut, on their bond losses. So the whole thing is beginning to fall apart. Ukraine doesn't have any money. It's not actually getting money in cash to pay for anything. And it certainly hasn't got the cash coming into its coffers for tax revenues to actually pay the interest on its loans. So it's actually going to have to default, which will make it even more difficult to get any further money from any financial institutions, including the IMF.
Good point.
But Ukraine still have their land.
Most of that's mortgaged to the likes of Cargills and the various other multinationals.
So
you have to remember, what hasn't been stolen, nationalized, privatized, or simply given away doesn't really exist. There's very little left of any value. And those assets that were of serious value, most of them are actually here in the Donetsk.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I would like to come back to SCO, and as we told and we showed in our video, well, now it's Putin's talking, that Alexander Lukashenko and Belarus became the SCO member. And so, as a new member, as a new entry into this association, what do you think, Rhod? What they can bring to SCO, and how can Belarus itself benefit? And
Belarus,
why Belarus?
Well, Belarus is a logical framework going back to my original route of one border with each country minimum. Belarus borders Russia, but it's also a gateway into Europe, and actually could end up being a gateway for India, China, the whole of the Caucasus and the stands, etc., with the various railways and transit routes that are crisscrossing the member countries, will come into Russia, Kazakhstan, and then will head towards Minsk, where the railways and the roadways, etc., all converge. Will then give them access into the Baltics, then onto Scandinavia, and then into Germany, down into southern Europe of Austria, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and then to Italy.
Yeah, my first thought with that when it was announced was that it's a security thing because, it's sort of well known more so that SCO is definitely interested in security, and I thought that seemed maybe a major consideration for them.
Because
That's
you
what I
think
thought.
that because Belarus has border with Lithuania, Latvia, and Poland. Those three countries are very hostile towards Russia. So you
Yeah.
mean, Clive, that that's why they took Belarus in order to protect Russia?
I feel
Somehow.
that's
Well,
yeah.
I think you're exaggerating the impact of the Baltic states and Poland from a military perspective. I mean, you wouldn't, if you were attacked by the Baltic states, I think it would be the equivalent of being savaged by a dead sheep.
We're going to get some Baltic viewers on, see what they reckon. No, I mean, I do see your point though, because we really wonder, and in our backroom
I
discussions
think
we
it's
say
more from
what's going
Clive,
on.
I think it's more from a commercial and a security. Nobody now is going to attack Russia. They've thrown everything they can into what they're doing with the Ukraine. So with Belarus, it's a commercial balance. I mean, Belarus is one of the largest exporters of fertilizer, for example. It's also got a major bio products for veterinary and animal feeds, etc., and amino acids, etc., in conjunction with the Chinese. They're already cooperating quite largely with the Chinese, which is not widely known. So it was only a matter of time that the Chinese decided that, along with the Russians, was hang on a minute, we're doing so much business with these guys, we might as well get them involved officially.
Yeah, officially. Yeah, not just as an observer. Right.
Yeah.
But for Belarus, this is a great win of their diplomacy to be a part of this huge association like SCO. That's a benefit for them. So yes, they have a very strong relationship and friendly relationship with Russia, and Russia gives a gas discount, oil discount, and some loans with very low percent. Yes, Belarus have very good relationships with China as well.
Yeah, and that's what makes it logical. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a two-way street. I mean, Russia still makes money selling low gas. I mean, I remember writing an article back in 2007 about Nord Stream. It just happened to mention Nord Stream. But in 1984, Ronald Reagan complained about the first ever gas pipeline between the Soviet Union and Germany. And he complained that this was not fair because we'd be supplying the Germans with cheaper gas, which would make the German steel industry more effective and would undercut US steel. So he was against them dealing with the Soviets, who could sell them gas cheaper than the US could buy its gas. So there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
I mean, Russia sells the gas to Belarus simply because it has the gas available. It might as well sell it than not sell it to a friendly country. You know, it's called friends discount. I'm sure you get friends discount in stores of friends that you have. You know.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, they already use a lot of gas to make fertilizer, so they are producing something with it. So.
Exactly, Clive, you're right, because Belarus produces a lot of mineral fertilizers. They are a very huge producer. Their export goes to Europe, and now I guess the export will go to the opposite side.
Yeah. Now, I see that a question just came up there about Russia and the gas station again. I love this one. I mean, the Americans just love the fact that, you know, Russia is a gas station masquerading as a country, except they're dependent on Russian fertilizer, they're dependent on Russian nuclear fuel. You know, they're dependent on the Russians a lot of the time to fly their astronauts into space and to train them at Space City in Russia. In fact, you know, they're dependent on Russia for their military-industrial complex, because without Russia as a bogeyman, they wouldn't have to spend all that money. You know, Russia is the only thing that keeps the military-industrial complex going. I mean, they can hardly say we need an 800 billion defense budget to fight the Houthis in the Yemen, can they? But by bigging up Vladimir, and the other thing that does make me laugh is Russia is unable to subdue this Ukraine after 2 years, and militarily its army is useless, yet it's still capable of taking over the whole of Europe. Now, which is it? Is it a threat to the whole of Europe, or is it unable to defeat the Ukraine? Now, come on, you can't have it both ways, America.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's this narrative, right? See, I would much rather watch channels like ours, listen to people like you, Rhod, and Anastasia, who actually is in Russia, comes from Russia, can actually tell you what's going on, than the fake MSM.
Yeah, I mean, the media are hilarious. I mean, to show you how funny the media is, the Deputy Prime Minister and puppet master of Trudeau in Canada, Chrystia Freeland's grandfather was a Nazi in the Second World War. And he wasn't just any old Nazi. He was a editor of a Nazi newspaper that published his newspaper on a printing press that was stolen from some Jewish owners. Now, he emigrated to Canada after the war and was an avowed Nazi. Now, Chrystia Freeland ended up as the correspondent in Moscow for the Financial Times. Now, I know her. In fact, we used to call her, or at least I nicknamed her Seaweed, because even the tide wouldn't take her out.
Yeah,
and the journalist Matt Tiabi actually published that in the magazine The Exile. He still says it's one of his favorite lines of all time. So next time you see Chrystia Freeland pontificating on television about the Ukraine, just remember her grandfather was complicit with Bandera in the murder of Ukrainians, Jews, and Hungarians and Poles, etc. And her support for Ukraine has got nothing to do with the fact that she loves Ukraine. If she just hates Russians, and I think she still thinks I'm Russian.
Well, hatred, it's a very great power force, it seems.
It's also very destructive.
And destructive,
Anastasia. Yeah, I mean, all this Russophobia, look where it's got them. I mean, the Russian economy is booming, right? And it's not just according to the IMF and the World Bank because of Russia's military spending. We know that, etc., right? And it's due to Russophobia. Now, I mean, if you look at the economies of Western Europe, particularly the EU, Germany, for example, it based its whole economy from the 1990s to the latter part of the 2010s on cheap Russian gas, affordable Russian gas. It's industry. The largest plant in Germany used as much energy. It was a BASF plant in Ludwigshafen, right? It used as much energy on a daily basis as the Luxembourg, and it employed some 25,000 people, and it was 12 square kilometers, or something like 12 square kilometers, right? And now it's shut down because it made chemicals, petrochemicals, and various other types of plastics. Now, that's gone because it can't make any money on its products because its energy costs are too high. So this Russophobia has destroyed German industry and has destroyed the economies of that. And it's also destroying the whole, they're buying fertilizer, which is a benefit to Belarus, who's one of the biggest exporters of fertilizer in Europe. So where the Germans can't make fertilizer, the Belarusians will benefit. So another benefit to the new member of the SCO.
Well, you remembered me about that Russophobia, that the port of Klaipėda in Latvia, they closed their, they told that they will not serve anymore Russian and Belarusian goods from that port. But after some months, they realized that the only goods they were serving in that port were from Belarus, and they were mineral fertilizers.
Yeah, and the railway system also.
Okay. What shall we do? We have in 2 months less than 30%. What shall we do? We can't open it again for Belarusian goods to come because we have already banned it. What shall we do? And nobody knows. Then there was in the hidden discussions that please, maybe you will come here in a hidden way, so we will close eyes because. So this is a Russophobia.
That sounds like subversion to me.
Destroy themselves. And I would like to ask one question. Maybe it's interesting for me personally when you say that German industry suffered right now in suffering from they have no access to cheap energy anymore. But why big business do not oppose to the government? How do you think?
Basically, they're powerless. I mean, the governments in the EU are ruled by Brussels. So directives come from Brussels. So plus you've got idiots like Annalena Baerbock, you've got Sergeant Schultz, etc. They go along with the consensus. So the German industry basically could have said, well, we're going to withdraw funding for your political party, but it wouldn't have done them any good. So they voted with their feet, and they're now opening plants in other parts of the world, like Southeast Asia, particularly China, or in North America. I mean, BASF, the plant I mentioned, the largest plant in Europe, is now opening up in America and in China.
Well, it was the main idea of the US to destroy European industry, to bring it to the US.
Absolutely.
Because years ago, the US, trying to reduce productive costs, took their industry in China. And now they're trying to get everything back and even more, even European industry. So the Mercedes, they closed their. What about Mercedes? They decided to bring the production of their cars in the US. Ultimately, who knows? I read something about it.
Okay.
So then the United States will benefit from this situation. This is the only winner.
Well, not really, because it's collapsing too, right? So it might have taken the market share, but its economy is in the toilet as well, and it's not going to get any better. I mean, the whole globalism is finished, and the industrial West is pretty much over, and the industrial East is now the future. The future is BRICS, the future is SCO.
Yeah, it looks that way. I mean, we have real cooperation, political cooperation, security cooperation, financial, economic cooperation. It's very optimistic. I mean, if you were a politician or a government minister, you'd be loving this. You know, sipping in business class. I mean, really, and then stepping off and meeting people and talking and really enjoying your job. I mean, this get you political points.
Yeah, I think we missed one question that was.
Yeah.
What about Saudi America Security Pact?
Yeah, I don't think that the Saudi American Security Pact is relevant anymore. Basically, Iran was the major threat to Saudi Arabia, and now they're both BRICS members. And they have China and they have Russia alongside to make sure that this regional spat will never get out of control, right? Also, these countries, China and Russia, will also make sure that the US doesn't try and pull a regime change operation and color revolution in which it is intended to do with countries who are not in something like the SCO or the BRICS, who don't have that level of political and major support. So the big game changer for the Saudi American Security Pact and its demise was the agreement brokered by China, obviously a BRICS member, with Iran and Saudi Arabia, neither of which were BRICS members at the time, and both are now.
Just highlighting some comments because everyone's, I mean, there's some great comments from the audience.
Keep an eye on the UK Commonwealth is 1/3 of the global demographic.
Yes, the Commonwealth is the remnants of the empire, and that makes me laugh because the most powerful economy in the Commonwealth is India, and it's a BRICS member, and its cooperation level with the UK is minimal. In fact, its favourite expat son, Rishi Sunak, just got kicked out of office in the British general election. And I don't suppose Modi was sending him commiserations.
I guess.
Happy 4th of July, by the way.
I guess Rishi Sunak made it deliberately.
Yeah. And of course, Australia is a member of the British Commonwealth, and it's also one of the major toadies and vassals of the United States. So, and it links up with the other useful idiots in AUKUS, which is the Australia, US, Canada, New Zealand Idiots Convention in Asia.
I can confirm that.
Yeah, so the Commonwealth, I mean, I don't think it actually does much apart from get together occasionally when the Queen was still alive, but I think it's lost all its relevance now.
Mm-hmm.
It remained on paper only. Well, SCO's impact as an economic association. Well, we see that the impact is very big from all points of view. It's huge, yeah. But let's talk about economy, because this is very important for the people. So which is, love from Scotland, everyone.
Thank you, Jokistan.
There you go.
So, Rhod, economic impact.
Economic impact is huge. As I mentioned earlier, the BRICS and Rhod initiative figures with the old Silk Road. It binds them together with roads, with railways, with sea routes like the north-south transportation corridor. And as they say, a high tide lifts all boats. So all this trade and commerce passing along will lift the economies of all the participants. So they will all benefit from mutual trade, and they will all benefit from the well-being of the economies. As Russian and Chinese economies continue to grow and expand, they will continue to invest in the markets of these countries and their cooperation with them. You can see it with the new nuclear plants that Russia's doing with Uzbekistan, and the water and the dam system that Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan are now going to do. So there's all sorts of things, the cooperation that wouldn't have been able to do before. but the resources, financial and the mental and political resources are there to make it all happen.
Okay. Thank you. I think we have given not brief, not short, but complete overview of SCO. What does it mean? Because I suppose our viewers have enjoyed our conversation today.
I think so. We've had a lot of questions, a lot of comments.
Yeah, we have a lot of questions. Thank you, all of you who participated today, who posed the questions. Next time, I think we made. What do you think if we make a format answer the questions online?
Yeah, I'm happy to keep answering the questions. I love questions, particularly as they're all quite sensible. Even the comments, you know, greetings from Scotland, greetings from Ufa, back to Scotland.
Yeah, we want people to participate, you know, because there's a lot of people that are quite experienced in the audience. And I can tell from the comments that very intelligent people who are very, I mean, they're in there, and
They're involved.
you know, we have experts on, you know, university. We have professors on, you know, and then with the comments and the questions, it really engages them, and then they feel that they can actually talk at that level, and then we benefit from that. So, yeah, thank you very much to the audience. It's definitely appreciated.
Yeah.
Okay, well, shall we end off?
We've been told we should close.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. All right. Thank you very much, Rhod.
Good night from him, good night from her, and it's good night from me.
Good night.
Awesome.
Have a good night. Thank you, all of you.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining this this episode of Think BRICS, and a bit of a celebration analysis of the 24th SCO Summit. There's a lot going on there. I think you'll see a lot more news, and we're going to be featuring a lot more about what continues to happen there. So if you've enjoyed this, again, please comment more. Please ask more questions. Rhod's happy to answer them. He loves to engage, especially on his own channel. He engages fully. So please subscribe to our social media, especially Substack. We really put a lot of effort into the Substack. There's a lot of articles that come through, a lot of things. There's comments. There's things that come off Twitter with our relationships, and it's all posted in Telegram, and you can comment. So we'll end off here, and thank you very much for coming. We'll see you next time. Ciao.